Welcome to Guitars and Music. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit, maybe give a tutorial if I might be so presumptuous, on Arabic guitar. Not authentic Arabic guitar, but how I, as a sort of traditional North American, Midwestern-born guitar player, play sometimes the Arabic flavors in my music, and I'll just have some takes on it. So I hope you'll watch it, and I hope you'll subscribe. But let's start out with this. Welcome to Guitars and Music. I hope you'll consider subscribing. I hope you'll send up a prayer for my beloved mother. She's not doing too well today. I wanted to talk a little bit and maybe give even a little lesson, if I would dare to be so presumptuous, since I don't play it all that much, but a little lesson, or at least a little take on what I do when I play Arabic style guitar. And I'm talking about sort of evoking the sounds of an Arabic instrument, particularly the oud, on a Western style guitar like I just was doing. And I have actually had a couple ouds. I actually own one now. I bought you probably know what an oud is. It's that big bowl. It usually has kind of a big bowl. They're really beautiful. They're a really old instrument. It's a traditional instrument of the Middle East, Turkey, and the Arab world. I would say it is to the Arab world, maybe kind of like the molten dulcimer is to Appalachia, or the balyarika is to Eastern Europe. It's a really traditional, beautiful instrument. I bought one off Amazon for $200, and the thing was basically unplayable. I'm going to show you some pictures of it. I'll superimpose over this. Basically untunable, unplayable. I'm pretty sure that thing was meant to like hang on a wall in a restaurant or something because it looked nice, but you couldn't play it. And then I bought a Godin multi-oud. Now, I'm not sure if you know what a multi-oud is. It's a Godin. They're a nice company, by the way. Godin is, pretty affordable, relatively speaking, and always good stuff. But they make an instrument called the multi-oud. And I bought that. It was kind of a modernized oud. And I had it for a while, and I played it. I've got maybe a little clip of me playing it. The only problem I had just with the oud in general, it was $1,000, and it's kind of a one-trick pony. I would play it a little bit, and there were so many things you couldn't do. And I actually thought when I first bought it, maybe I'd end up doing a belly dancing gig or a Middle Eastern themed wedding, or I don't know, or kind of cool stuff. But I ended up selling it. But I still picked up the flavor of Middle Eastern music a little bit. I'm not trying to present, I'm not trying to become something I'm not. But I did really get so I enjoyed that kind of haunting, droning, nasal sound of Middle Eastern music, which, you know, a lot of people think that goes right back to the Bible. That's probably how Greek music sounded, or the music of the Bible. We don't really know how it sounded, but that really kind of haunting sound. So I learned a couple things. You also hear a lot of that, some of those flavors in Spanish music. There's a lot of influence of Arabic music in Spanish music. But let me just show you a couple things that I picked up, and what little I know. But I'll show you how I play. Every once in a while, if I want to play a little Arab lick, I do it. First thing, I usually play any kind of Arabic flavor. And like I said, I'm not authentic. I don't do traditional Arab pieces really. But if I kind of want to add an Arabic flavor or do something with that kind of flavor, I usually play it in the key of D, and I usually do drop D tuning. And that gives you the ability to just stick your hand up there, hit a chord, and you've got something. Because the one problem with Arabic music, you can see why the scale is unusual, and it doesn't really correlate to major or minor too well. You can't think about majors and minors. And Western songs, you know, Western melodies don't really fit into it too well. It's really distinct, it's really beautiful, but it's pretty different. So I think the major scale of the Arabic, what gives you that flavor, it's actually a mode. It's the old Phrygian mode. I'm not too big on modes. I'd rather talk about songs, melodies, and key signatures myself. But I think it is considered the Phrygian mode. But let me just show you the basic scale. It's a D. We're playing it in D. I guess you could translate into any key, but I find D works well for the idiom of an acoustic guitar. D, and then it's kind of different, an E flat. Right there, you've got it. Those two notes give it to you. That's not that D to a D flat up a half step, or an E flat. D to an E flat. That's not something, you might hear that in a movie, that soundtrack to Jaws or something, but which is kind of almost a sound effect. But you're not gonna hear, that's not in much Western music. Right there, you hit that. Right there, you've got the beginnings of it, and then you've got to skip up to an F sharp, which is, we're going on the D string, so you play D, an E flat, first fret of the D string, and then you jump up to the fourth fret of the D string. Hear that? And that's quite a leap. So you're playing a scale. I guess that's a scale, right? But you're going from an E flat to an F sharp, which is a pretty unusual leap. If you've been listening to the Beatles and the Stones, or Frank Sinatra, or Happy Birthday, or I've been working on the railroad, or Amazing Grace, Old Rugged Cross, anything like that, if your brain's just soaked in the melodies of sort of Western music, I guess we'll call it, that's going to be pretty different to you. But it's beautiful, beautiful. So D, E flat, F sharp. I'm sorry I don't have a better camera. But D, E flat, F sharp, then a G, and I just play open G string, and then an A. And just kind of, it's very dramatic. Right there. You just do that. Now that also sounds kind of Spanish, doesn't it? And then I usually go up to a C, which you could play here or here. And then you could toss a B flat in there in between. And because you're in drop D, you can just whang on that. one position. Now you bet that so that you're always playing off that scale. And I watched some of these oud lessons, and I kind of gave up because that one scale, they have all these different variations of it, but a lot. I just, you kind of get the flavor of the sound, and I think it's kind of like jazz. It's a very improvisational idiom, I think. Now let me show you the other position. Let's say you're playing a D chord. If you play a major or a minor chord, you're going to screw it up. The major third, the happy sound, or the minor third, the haunting sound, is going to screw it up. So that adds that. I think it goes back to when instruments were kind of primitive, and you had a lot of drone strings. And some of the more subtle chord voicings and things we've developed over the centuries weren't really even possible, maybe. But anyway, let's try one up here. So we'll play this up, and you're going to play the D right there, 3rd fret of the B string. Then you're going to go to the E flat, and then F sharp on the high E string. It's the same scale, basically. And it's very Latin too, really. That'd be a. Now watch right here. I play a little lick up here. And it's I like say you're playing a D chord, like a D chord. Like you're playing. It's like an A chord shape up here on the 7th fret. But of course you don't want to think about it's not a D major, but that kind of so you're playing up here, and you go up one note. See that? That's the 8th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret, 7th fret. Right there. I almost want to say that Led Zeppelin might have done something kind of like that. Right there. 7th fret, 8th fret, 7th. That's a 7th fret, 8th fret, and then 5th fret. But you hit that string on the 6th fret. So you got. Now the last position I usually do, it's the same. They're all the same variations of the same scale, but I had to play them, a fair amount just to get the muscle memory in my fingers and get to thinking that way, because I was always flipping into some Eric Clapton riff or something, and that just won't work. Here's how you do it up the neck. You're playing D up here, which is the 10th fret, and then the 11th fret. It's the same scale. So you got to go. See that? 10th fret, 11th fret, and then the 14th fret. And when you come down to the B string, you want to go to the 13th fret of the B string. Ah. And then the 11th fret of the B string and the 10th fret of the B string. And when you hit the G string on the 12th fret, you want to go to the 11th fret. You've got those half steps in there that'll throw you off. And then the 13th fret of the D string, back up to the 11th fret of the G string, and then land on your root. The other thing you can do is, once you've got those open strings, because you're in drop D tuning, every once in a while you wish you were in standard tuning on the drop D. Well, I hope you can see that. If you can't see it, I might re-video it, but I just wanted to show you that. The main scale, you just move it up and down the neck, but the main scale is... and just mess around with that. A couple general comments about it from my limited experience playing that way is... it's really hard to sync up with another guitar player. You know, when I had that oud for a while, I played with another guy who was really quite a good guitar player, but we would always have trouble kind of syncing up. Like, we ended up doing some really cool stuff. That oud sounded good on, like, the theme from The Godfather or Green Sleeves, kind of medieval type sounding stuff. It sounded kind of like a lute, you know, really that kind of... but to do something like that... But if the other guy, I guess, is tuned in kind of a drone, that would be cool. But a lot of times what they use is just a drum and maybe like a flute or some other instrument. But if you have a lot of Western chords, you know, 1, 4, 5, you know, relative minor, all the kind of chord structures we toss around all the time, I don't think it's going to work that well for you. It's a solo instrument. But I really like it, and... I think it's a beautiful way to add something to your guitar. So if you're ever doing anything that's like an instrumental, maybe toss a little bit on a recording. I do think maybe, you know, Led Zeppelin probably has some licks like that in there somewhere. If anybody does, it's probably Jimmy Page. Another guy I think named Richard Thompson does a lot with Arabic style guitar. Now these are Western style guitar players. Those are both British guys. But, you know, Celtic music also has a lot of those kind of droning elements and some of those flavors sometimes. Some of that really old Celtic style. So, and of course, Spain and Celtic areas of like Ireland are, you know, if you think about it, they're not that far apart if you have a decent boat. So, but I thought I'd just share that. I don't know if it will help anybody. I hope you can see my fingers up there. But that's what I do. So... God bless you. Pray for my mother. Pray for my mother. Please. And if you're not a praying person, send a positive vibe her way. I hope you'll consider subscribing. Thank you. God bless you.